Alright, as I'm on my march to be locking Louis this month, we're gonna just go through the DS collection, which is my favorite console to collect for. So let's get into it. I have two Japanese DS games. One of them is Tomodachi Collection. Tomodachi Life is one of my favorite games of all time, so I wanted to get the DS version, which was sadly not released in America. I also have this one. I have no clue what it is, but it's a Nintendo game that was only released in Japan, and I had the opportunity to buy it for like $3, so I did. Next is 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. This is my favorite DS game and one of my favorite games of all time. On this channel, I've had plenty of videos where I praise this one and try to get people to play it, so I'll do it again now. Please play this game. Next is Animal Crossing Wild World. The only Animal Crossing I've ever really gotten into is the one on the Switch, but, you know, I have this one just for the collection, of course. Next is Big Brain Academy. This is a Nintendo created game, which is actually surprisingly pretty fun. It's just like a mini game collection, but it's kind of enjoyable. Next is Brain Age 2. The only reason I really have this one is because it is a Nintendo game. I don't think it's particularly fun. Next is Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow. The most notable thing about this is, of course, the despicable looking box art. I don't know what they were thinking when they decided to print these, but it's outrageous. I've never played the game, but I've heard it's pretty good. Next is Chrono Trigger, which is a very solid game. I think it's personally not, as good as people say it is, but for the right person, it might be. I've played through it twice. I think it's good enough to warrant 2 playthroughs, clearly, but I don't think it's one of the best games of all time. It's very good, though. Next is Cooking Mama. I have this one because it's a fairly iconic game for the DS's library. With that being said, it's not that great of a game, but you gotta have it. Diddy Kong Racing DS is next. Next is Diddy Kong Racing DS. This is an inferior port to the N64 version, but it's not bad, I guess. Next is Dragon Quest IX. This is the only Dragon Quest game I have on the DS, and I've also heard it's the worst one, but, it's still good from what I've heard, so. Next is Drawn to Life. This is a pretty iconic one for being a cheap game. It's like an RPG where you draw your own character. It's fairly interesting. Next is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The reason I have this is because it's actually a fairly rare game. I just happened to come across it one day and I recognized it as being rare. Apparently the game is also terrible, for what it's worth, but it's a rare one. I've only seen it once and I kind of grabbed it. It's also iconic. Well, the NES version of this is iconic because it's so garbage that it's like considered to be the worst game of all time by the angry video game nerd. So it's got a little bit of interesting history behind it. Next is Feel the Magic, which is, I believe, a launch title by Sega, and you'd think it would be I don't know if I'm 2 minutes into the video or not. You'd think it'd be a corn game, but I don't know if I don't think it is. With a cover like this, it looks like it would be, but I don't think it is. Next up is Final Fantasy IV, which I've heard is a very good Final Fantasy game, so I enjoy 7 a lot, and that's the only one I've played, so, whenever I want to play another Final Fantasy, it might be this one. Next is Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, which is another game that I think is a little bit overrated. It's another fantastic game, but it is part of the backlogged core. I don't think it's as good as the rest of the games that are in that grouping. Harvest Moon DS, The Tale of Two Towns is next. I don't know anything about this game. I just kind of happened to stumble into it. Next is Hotel Dusk Room 215. This is a great DS game right here. This is another one that I highly recommend. It's more of a visual novel than anything, but it's a great mystery. Next is Kirby Superstar Ultra, which is considered by most people to be the best Kirby game. Next is Lost in Blue. I don't know much about this one, but I did get a good deal on it, so that's why I have it. Next is Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. This is another one of the best DS games of all time. It's so good, just across the board, very solid. Next is Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. I've never played this one, and I've heard it's the worst one in the series besides Paper Jam, but you gotta have it for the collection. Next is Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, which I got a very good deal on. That's the reason I have it, but it's Mario, you gotta have it. Mario Hoops 3-on-3 is up next. A lot of people really like this game. I think it's a little overrated personally, but it's still pretty fun. Next is Mario Kart DS. This is another fantastic Mario Kart For me, only Mario Kart Wii and DS are really worth playing at all. Probably because those are the ones that I grew up with, but Mario Kart DS is fantastic. So much fun. Mario Party DS is next. This is my go-to Mario Party in general. I usually play this I used to play this in school, back in high school, with my friends. We'd all bring our DSs and gather around to play Mario Party DS. It's so much fun. Mario vs. Donkey Kong Miniland Mayhem is next. I had a lot of experience with this game as a young child. I had this game downloaded on my DSi XL, but I never really loved it too much. It's good, not much more than that. Meteos is next. I don't know much about this one other than that it has a really high Metacritic score. Namco Museum DS is next. That has a bunch of old arcade games on it, so might as well grab it, right? New Super Mario Bros. DS is next. This is a fantastic game, super underrated. A lot of people just kind of write off the entire series of New Super Mario Bros. Just because a lot of the games feel samey, but to be honest, they're some of the best 2D Mario games out there. Next are the Nintendogs games. I have Dash and Friends and Lab and Friends. I never played Nintendogs as a kid, so I only really have these because of that logo in the bottom right. Personal Trainer Cooking is next. Now this is a game, well, not even really a game. You put this cartridge in your DS and it gives you instructions on how to cook a meal with voice recognition, which is very interesting. I want to try it one day, but I don't want to burn my house down, so I'm gonna have to find a good reason to do it. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney is next. This game is absolutely fantastic. Sounding like a broken record here, but Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, the first one, great game. Justice for All, on the other hand, is not great. I never finished this one. I'm going to finish it in the next couple months, hopefully. I want to try to finish it before December. I abandoned it like halfway through because it was very boring and I didn't like the cases very much. Next is Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations, which I've heard is the best Ace Attorney game, or at least one of the best. So the main reason I'd even play Justice for All at all is so I can get the story up until Trials and Tribulations so I can enjoy this one. Now we're in Pokemon territory, Pokemon Black. This was the first Pokemon game I ever really got into. I got into Pokemon very late, later than most people. I got into it when I was a freshman in high school during COVID, and I played Pokemon Black for the first time when I got it for my collection. I absolutely loved this game, and I was a Pokemon fiend for the next 2.5 years or so, and in that time I played all the games, but I'd still say Pokemon Black and White are the best Pokemon games out there. Those are followed by Pokemon Black and White 2. These games are second place for me. So much content here. There's so much fun to have in the post-game when it comes to fighting the Pokemon World Tournament or going up the Black Tower, or there's so many different ways to battle with your Pokemon even after finishing the main story in this game, and for that reason I have over 300 hours on these games. Next is Diamond. I've never played Diamond. I've played Platinum multiple times, but never Diamond or Pearl. Next is Explorers of Sky. I've heard this one's very good. The only mystery dungeon really worth playing, I guess, but I haven't gotten to it yet. I got this game fairly recently at a GameStop, so I'm excited to get to it eventually. Next is Explorers of Time, which I have not heard is good, but, for the collection, of course. Next is Pearl. Pretty solid one here. Never played it. Next is Platinum, which, as far as, fines go, in terms of what I got a really good deal on in this entire DS collection, this is probably the best one. I ended up getting Pokemon Platinum at the flea market near my house for $5. $5 for Pokemon Platinum. The story goes like this. It was sometime in early January. It was very cold. There was a guy that I'd never seen before with a table of games, and I ended up picking out a few random Xbox 360 games from him. And then he asked me if I wanted to take a look at the DS games he had in his coat pocket, and he pulled out Pokemon Platinum. And that's how the story goes. And yes, it is authentic. All of my games are authentic. Next is Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs. I've not heard this game is good at all, but, Pokemon for the collection. Next is Soul Silver, which is pretty much second place as far as good deals go. This is a story I believe I've told plenty of times on the channel, but in case you haven't heard it, it's very good. So, there's a game store near my house. I won't name names, but they were selling, this was in like 2021, they were selling Call of Duty Black Ops, the first one on Xbox 360. They had like 15 copies of them, so they were clearancing them all out for $1. I bought all of them, all like, I think it ended up being, I don't know, it was like around, it was between 10 and 15, I don't know exactly how many. And then I traded all of them into GameStop during a trade credit boost for $12 each, which meant I made $11 on each of those Black Ops, and that equaled out to at least like $150 to $200 in trade credit. And I ended up buying Pokemon Soul Silver, Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, and Pokemon Black 2 with that trade credit, all for like $10. It was, at the time, one of the best deals that I had ever gotten, and, you know, in terms of getting actually quality games for the collection, you can't really ask for much more than that. It was a brilliant scheme. Next is Pokemon White, which I also got with that trade credit method. I forgot to mention it. This was another one that I got with that trade credit method. So it was Black 2, Soul Silver, White, and Partners in Time. One of the best schemes I've ever pulled. Of course, as I already said, this is probably my favorite Pokemon game, but I played Black first. Next is White 2. Already covered Black 2. This one's, of course, just as good. It also used to be the most I've ever paid for a game, when I paid around $150 for this one in like perfect minty complete in-box condition. It was at the time the second to last one I needed. I bought it in late 2022 for about $150, and you may notice there's one Pokemon game that I am missing. I'm still missing Heart Gold. I've been searching for it for 2 years. For 2 years it's been the last one that I need, and I still have yet to find it, so so sad. I'll find it soon though, hopefully next year. Next is Professor Layton and the Curious Village. I've never played the Professor Layton games, but I believe this is the first one. Now we have Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box. Don't know much about this one, but no, I got it. Next is Radiant Historia, which I've also heard is a very good game. I've not gotten to it yet. You know, it is an Atlas game, so I'll probably like it. Next is Scribblenauts. This is one of my favorite series, although I never played the DS ones. I got started on Unlimited on the Wii U. And I also have Super Scribblenauts. I have bad news. As I was recording this, my complete in-box Pokemon Red fell off of the shelf onto the floor from like 7 feet up. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing is next. I never played this one, but I did play Transformed on the Wii U, and that game is amazing. Sonic Chronicles is next. I've heard this game is terrible, but with that being said, the cover art is hard as fuck, and that's why I have it. I love this box art. I always have. Next is Sonic Rush. I have never played the first one, but as a kid I had Sonic Rush Adventure, and I absolutely loved that game, and I somehow don't have Sonic Rush Adventure in my collection yet. So unfortunate. Next is Star Fox Command. I don't know anything about this game or whether it's good or not, but I got it. Next is Super Mario 64 DS, which a lot of people got angry at me for not putting in my top 10 DS games video that I uploaded about a week ago, depending on when this video was uploaded. This game just controls poorly. I don't know what else to say. As great as the levels and the extra content are, it just doesn't control well at all. So, you know, how can it be that good? Speaking of bad controls, we have the DS Zelda games with Phantom Hourglass. I tried playing this game a couple times, and I just don't think it's that good. Along with Spirit Tracks. I've never played Spirit Tracks though, so maybe this one's better, which I have heard that Spirit Tracks is the better one of the two. And finally, we have, well, not finally, we have The World Ends With You next. This game is very good. Again, this is the third super hyped game of the video that I said I think is not as good as people say it is. Unfortunately, that is my opinion on this one. What an L. Next is Yoshi's Island DS. This is, I've had this game since I was a kid, but I still, I don't remember it very well at all. I haven't played it in like probably 10 years, so I don't really have much to say. And finally, we have Yoshi Touch and Go, which, I don't know. Don't know what this game is at all, actually. I got it at a GameStop a few weeks ago for $10, which is pretty solid. Now, after all that, we have not covered the best DS game in my collection in terms of value. I have Solitarobo, which is the most expensive DS game in North America. I found this at a GameStop about a year ago for what ended up being about like $50 after discounts. It's worth north of $200. It was probably my best GameStop find of all time. It's one of those things where, you know, if it wasn't me who found it, I would not have believed it, because it's just insane. Now, of course, no game collection is complete without a vault of rare games, which I hide behind my Pokemon stuff up here. Here they are. I can't believe I have these. I mean, to have found these in the wild is just unbelievable. Now, no DS collection is complete without the consoles. First up, I have this pink DS Lite, which is very unnoteworthy, and I never play on it. These are the real ones. This is my childhood DSi XL, which has a broken hinge and is unplayable as a result of that, sadly. But here we have its replacement. A mid-condition Mario Edition DSi XL in red that I got at the flea market for like $50. This is probably my favorite console to play on in my entire collection. I just love this thing so much. And that's my DS collection. This was, this is part of locking Louie 2 weeks here before my midterms, when I still have free time. So here you go, guys. Enjoy.